Alright, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. We're starting a new unit today, and it has to do with circles and composite figures. Now, we all know what a circle is, but composite figures are figures that have more than one shape within them, okay? So it might be a square and a triangle put together, right? So a composite figure would be the square with the triangle on top, right? And so we are going to look at the perimeter of those, and as well as the area. So if we're looking right here, we can look at this as a warm-up. If you want to push pause, try these on your own. But we're trying to find the perimeter, which is the distance around a shape, right? And so we can see that this is a square. We have 6. Now we can add 6 plus 6 plus 6 plus 6, or we can say 6 times 4, and that is 24 meters. Now units will matter very much here because a 24 meter square is quite big, but a 24 millimeter square is quite small. Name the shape. Has 5 sides. If you said pentagon, you are correct. And so instead of saying 8 plus 8 plus 8 plus 8 plus 8, I'm going to go ahead and say 8 times 5, and I get 40, don't forget the units, centimeters. Now we have just basic units, not squared, because this is perimeter, not area. So we're not trying to find the area inside, but the distance around. So we have the triangle here, 12 yards times 3. 12 times 3 is 36 yards. Sorry about that. All right, looking on down here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sides. So we have 20 times 6, and 2 times that. 2 times 6 is 12, with the 0 is 120 feet. You might recognize this shape. You'll see these on most street corners as a stop sign, and it's an octagon, right? An 8-sided shape. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And so we have 2 inches times 8, and we have 16 inches around the octagon. 15 millimeter square, so we have 15 times 4. 10 times 4 is 40. 4 times 5 is 20. So we have a total of 60 millimeters there. All right. So today we are going to look at how can you find the circumference of a circle, right? And so we have a couple things here that we need to kind of remind our brains about. One is the word radius, right? So radius. And then we have another one that is diameter. Now, the diameter has a formula of diameter, d, equals 2 times the radius, r, right? And then we have radius, which is radius, r, equals the diameter divided by 2. And so if you look down here at this picture, you would see that the radius, right, is half the diameter, right? So there's 2, right? So if we put this, right, straight as long as I can get right now, right? It's just 2 radius equal the diameter, right? So 2r, 2 radiuses equal the diameter. And then if you look at the diameter, right, well, half of it is the radius, right? So we divide by 2 to get half of the diameter, right? So radius is half the diameter, and the diameter is just 2 radius put together. Okay. And then the circumference of a circle. If you watch the Greek math video that we did, you saw how possibly they discovered the circumference, the distance around the Earth. So another word for circumference is the distance around, right? So you can find the circumference of a basketball. You can find the circumference of a volleyball, four-square ball, anything that's round, right? The Earth. Hope there's none of those, what do they call it? The Flatlanders or whatever. Yeah, nope, the Earth is round. The circumference of C, now look at how we use this one. C is a big C here. Remember I told you when we were using our letters for algebra that larger letters, or capitalized letters, are used for different things within math. And so we always have to use a small letter for our variable. So big C of is equal to circumference is equal to pi times the diameter, d, or pi times twice the radius, right? Because we know that the radius is just, the diameter is just two radius added together, radii, I should say. So we have this formula, or we have this formula, right? So you can use either or, pi times diameter or 2 pi r. This is the one that I like to use. I don't know why, because you can always go, you can always figure out the radius, but if it's given diameter, we'll use pi times diameter. All right, so it says work with a partner, but obviously you're by yourself. So we'll cross that out. You can go do this together or push pause and try to figure these out on your own. So it says measure the perimeter of the large square in millimeters, right? So we'd have to measure that out. Unfortunately, you know what? I'm actually going to take this slide out right now. All right, so we are going to find the circumference of the circle. Use 3.14 or 22 over 7 for pi, right? So when you use pi, so we have circumference equals pi times the diameter, or we have circumference equals 2 times pi times r, right? So we can choose whichever one we like. Looks like we'll be using 2 times pi times r, because this gives us our radius. Remember, the radius is half the diameter, right? And it has to go through the center point. And so I always like to write out my formula first, 2 times pi times r, and I just plug things in. Right. And so we have circumference equals 2 times pi, 3.14 times 6, and we end up with 37.68 inches. Now, if you wanted to round, you would just say 37.7, the nearest tenth. All right. I'm going to go ahead and push pause so I don't run the video out, but if you want to push pause right now to try these on your own, feel free to do so. All right, so after I did all those, given the radius, I got 37.68 inches. Circumference for this number 2 is 12.56 feet, and then circumference, the distance around, is the circle would be 21.98 centimeters. I'm going to go ahead and extend the page so I have some more room to work. And for this one, we are going to use the circumference equals pi times the diameter, right? Because it gave us the diameter here. So we'll interchange that. If we just want to use radius, well, we just use 2 times pi times 10, right? The radius would be 10. But if you want to use the diameter, you can do that as well. So we have 3.14, as it said to use, times 20. And we get circumference equal to 62.8, don't forget the units, feet. Right, I'm going to do the rest of these. If you want to push pause right now, go ahead and figure those out, and you can check your answers once you push play again. All right, so I worked all these out using the circumference equals pi times the diameter. Remember that pi wants us to use 3.14. Now this, if you've ever done the pi competition on Pi Day, where you had to memorize as many numbers of pi that you could possibly remember, and you might have seen those up in math rooms where they go all the way around the room. But we just abbreviate to 3.14. So you can look right there and see that circumference of number 5 would be 43.96 millimeters once you worked out the math. Again, feel free to use a calculator. And then circumference equals 3.14 times 1, right? Diameter is 1 inch, small circle. And you get the circumference is 3.14 inches. All right, a couple for you to try on your own. Go ahead and push pause. Again, I'm going to write down the formulas just so you see those. So circumference equals pi times diameter, and circumference equals 2 pi r. And you're like, why is there two formulas? Well, right, diameter equals 2r, right? So if we look at that, we can see that diameter which would be these two pieces of the puzzle, right? So it's really the same thing, just using different pieces that it's given you. All right, so go ahead and push pause and work those out on your own. All right, so we have circumference equals pi times 20 feet. And so we have number 3.14. And we got circumference equals 62.8 feet. Alright, so circumference equals 2 times pi times 7, right, meters. Circumference equals, well, 14. If I combine 7 and 2, multiply, times 3.14, and I get 43.96 meters. Alright. Again, difference formula. One's given diameter, one is given the radius. That's why we use the different formulas, right? You can always use this one right here, pi times diameter. Just know that if it gives you diameter, we know that the radius is 10 feet, right? Half of the diameter. All right, so the diameter of the circle is 16 centimeters. Find the radius. Ooh, so we're trying to find the radius. So we know our two formulas, circumference equals 2 pi r, or circumference equals pi times diameter. So we're going to see which one of these we're going to use to plug in these numbers. Okay, so it gave us the circle diameter is 16 centimeters, right? And so I'm going to use, we are trying to find r, right? So we're going to need to use this one because we're going to need to find that, right? So if the diameter is 16, right, and diameter equals 2r, right? So if 16 equals 2r, to get that by itself, we divide by 2 on this side, divide by 2 on this side. Again, radius is just half of the diameter, right? So now, I guess we didn't need to use these formulas. Actually, then I look back at it. We just needed to manipulate the diameter formula. So my apologies, we're not using these formulas. Alright, so the radius of the circle is 9 yards. Find the diameter. And so we would use the radius formula. So radius, and if you're like, what was the radius formula, right? We had those back here. And so we say radius equals diameter divided by 2, right here. Right? So radius equals the diameter divided by 2. Gives us the radius, right? Equals diameter divided by 2. Now, this is, I'm going to show you this another way, right? 9 equals 1/2 d, right? This is something a lot of us forget, and it's okay because we're still learning math, right? So to get rid of this off, I need to multiply by 2 over 1, right? What happens there? I get 2 over 2 d, right? These cancel out, right? And so I have d all by itself. And so I multiply by 2 over 1 on this side, and I get 18 equals the diameter, which is pretty simple, right? You could probably look at that and said, oh, I know the radius is half the diameter, So I'll multiply 9 times 2, and I would get, and I realized I forgot to use my units. I'll write those in there now. Very important to use units. Zero was bad. Alright, so find the circumference of the flying disc. Use 3.14, so these are real life objects that you might see as circles. So find the circumference. It gives us the radius, so we'll use circumference equals 2 times pi times r. So we have circumference equals 2 times 3.14 times 5 inches, right? Circumference equals, use your calculator, 2 times 3.14 times 5 equals 31 and 4/10. I want you to see really fast, what is 22 divided by 7, right? Because remember the fraction mark means to divide, right? So we have 22 divided by 7, and we end up with 3.14, right? And that's where they said you can use that if you'd like, right? I like to stick to just the pi. So circumference equals, and they gave us the diameter, right? All the way across, right? So all the way across here. So we use pi times diameter, and circumference equals equals 3.14 times 28 millimeters. I feel like sometimes keeping the units in there help me remember to put them on at the end. So 3.14 times 28, and we end up with 87.92 millimeters. And that would be about 8.8 centimeters if you were looking at, it seems like a lot, right? 87.92, but they're millimeters, they're tiny. All right, something for you to do on your own if you'd like to, looks like, so push pause if you'd like. I'm going to go ahead and push pause now for you to give these a shot, but go ahead and try them on your own. All right, folks, so you gave yourself a shot to do them on your own. So I use 2 times pi times r because it gave us the radius here, and this is the diameter. So I used pi times diameter instead, right? So, but again, comes out with the same answers no matter what you do, right? If you use 7 plus 7 for the radius, you could use this formula as well, right? Check your answers, make sure that you have these guys attached to them. If not, please write them in. Don't forget those units. Right, so here we go. We have the circumference of the roll of caution tape decreases 10.5 inches after a construction worker uses some of the tape. Which is the best estimate of the diameter of the roll after decrease, right? All right, so the circumference before they started using it was 31.4 inches, right? They used 10.5 inches of that tape, right? So we need to do something first. All right, so circumference is going to equal 31 and 4/10 minus 10 and 5/10. And so we're going to end up with a circumference of 20 and 9/10 inches. Okay, so now we'll use the formula that we know and trust. Pi equals 2 times diameter, because that's what it's asking for. We need to find d. Okay, and so we know some of these pieces now. We know that this is c, right? And we know that pi equals 3.14, right? So we say 20.9 equals 3.14 times diameter. And look at that, a one-step equation. In order to take off that 3.14 from the d, we need to divide by 3.14 on both sides. That gives us 1. D is left by itself. And then we say 3.14 on this side. So we say 20.9 divided by 3.14, and we end up with diameter equals 6.656. We'll round to the nearest hundredth, so diameter equals 6.66, and that is inches. What a terrible number. All right. If we rounded to the nearest whole number, we would simply say that it would be 7 or 6.7, right? And so we would say that 7 inches is the best estimate for us, right? All right, one for you to do on your own. Now it says the tape decreases by 5.25 inches. Go ahead and push pause now. I'm going to push pause to work out the problem, and it will appear on the screen once you have worked out the problem yourself. All right, here we go. All right, so I worked this out. I found my circumference. I took this piece right here from the previous page, right? So it said the roll of tape was 31.4 inches. I subtracted off how much tape was used. I ended up with 26.15 inches left of the circumference of the tape, right? And therefore, I would round and say that approximately 8 inches of the would be the diameter of the tape after it was used. All right, so next part, we're looking at the semicircle. Now, a semicircle is just one half of a circle, right? So find the perimeter of the semicircle region, right? So as you guessed it, if something's half, right? So what's half your age, right? So if you're 13, right, half of your age is 6.5 years, okay? So what do we do there? We divided by 2. What are we going to do here? We're going to divide by 2. All right. So if we're looking at the distance around, circumference equals 2 pi r, right? Or or it equals pi times diameter, right? Now, well, what are we going to do? I'm going to use a different color so you can see. We're going to divide by 2. We're going to divide by 2, right? And so the distance around the curved part is 1/2 the circumference of a circle with a diameter of 6 meters. Now remember, the diameter is all the way across, so from here to here. Okay, so let's figure out our circumference of the whole circle. I'm going to put a C, a little W right there, so we know that that's the circumference of the whole circle, not the TV show or the TV station. So C W, little w, equals 2 times 3.14 times 3 meters, right? If I'm using this formula, right? So half of it would be 3 meters. And then I would divide by 2, right? So figure out the top, the numerator first. 2 times 3.14 times 3 divided by 2. And we get that the C of the semicircle, right, put a little s there, right, would be 9.42. I guess this only top part would be the whole circle, right? And if we divide by 2, that would give us the circle. So I'm going to one more thing. Semicircle equals 18.84 divided by 2, right? And we'll get rid of this little piece right here. My apologies, I probably shouldn't have done that. All right. So again, the W just means the whole circle, and the S means the semicircle, right? So half of it, right? So we're dividing by 2 here. All right, so did we answer the question? Find the perimeter of the semicircle, and we did. All right, and so just thinking one more step here. So this encompasses this piece, right? So this is from here to here, 9.42 meters, right? But there's one piece that is missing here, and you might have recognized it right away, and that's from here all the way to here, and that's this piece from here all the way to here, and that was given to us as 6 meters. So we're going to add 6 meters on, and we have the semicircle equals 15.42 meters, right? All right. All right, a couple for you to try on your own. Again, don't forget to add this piece at the end, right? So find the semicircle, right? And then add the 2 feet. All right, I'll give you a second to do those. I'll do those and push pause and try those on your own. And then when you're ready to check your work, push play. All right, folks. So just to go through these really fast for you, remember we needed to add this little piece on, and this is where that 7 is coming from. And that's where that 2 is coming from. And then right here, I made a mistake. Right? Give you a second to think about what mistake that I made. Right there, right? So if you haven't thought about it yet, if you're looking at that 15, it should not be 15, but what should it be? It should be 30, right? Because we need to add this piece plus this piece, right? So when you have 2R, so 15, so it's not 62, but 15 more than that, and that would be 77.1 inches. All right, hopefully that made sense. All right, so this is your exit tickets. It's a separate piece on Google Classroom. You actually have to go in there and answer it for me on Google Classroom, okay? So you'll find this exit ticket on a Google Classroom assignment that you have to complete by 11:30 a.m. today. Okay, so today by 11:30, or unfortunately you won't get credit. All right, good luck, folks.